Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of TC Talk, back today with another video. And in today's video, we're going to be going over the Min-Max Games Battle Hardened Atlanta, as well as the PTI event. Talk about how the field was, top 8, how everything went, and just kind of give reactions and have some fun with it. But I wanted to show Min-Max Games Twitter. If you're not following this team, please go follow them. They do amazing Flesh and Blood events. They're probably one of the premier, if not the premier hoster for Flesh and Blood events, or like tournament organizer. Definitely go check them out. Probably one of the biggest patrons of the game and influencers of the game and trying to get people to play it. Super big in the community. So if you don't know who they are, which you probably do if you've been in the community for any amount of time, definitely go check them out. So I pulled up some of their stuff. So this was the 128 player Battle Hardened in Atlanta. It was 7 rounds long, followed by a cut to top 8, and pretty good. It was like one of the newer tournaments obviously we've had since skirmish season ended. Obviously we've had some other big events too with Birmingham and stuff like that, but this was kind of a big one post skirmish, right? And also this is kind of, I think, the first event where people are really prepping for Nats. I think this is because people usually a month or two out, two or so out. I think this is like the first event itself where people were doing it. So I think it's kind of cool to see this, even though it is a small sample size, super small sample size, to just kind of see where things are going, where people's heads are at, and kind of give our thoughts. So also this tournament was run by the Savage Feats team, as you see in the top right. Definitely go check out their Twitter, go check out their YouTube. They're amazing production by Mansent and his team, just world-class stuff. So obviously Lexi is the biggest one. I think it's without a shadow of doubt, even though Icelander is converting very high and Icelander is very good, I think Lexi is the best deck in the room. It's because I think there's a certain amount of, you have to account for how hard the deck is to pilot and how consistent it is in order to evaluate what the best deck is. I think at a high level, like the ultimate level, I think Icelander is probably the best deck in the room. But when it comes to a big event, when you're talking about the best deck, it's Lexi. So no surprise for her to be the first one. I was surprised that Bravo would be tied for second with Dromai. I thought it would be Icelander, and then I thought you might have Dromai, and then it would be a slight drop for Bravo. I was expecting Icelander to be 13, 12. Then you have 9 to 10 Dromai, and then Bravo's 8. That's what my expectation was. So Bravo being so high, maybe that's to help combat Icelander because he can get around her with his Dominate. He has an okay matchup in the Lexi. Like we talked about in the last video, I think Bravo, or not the last video, it's the video coming up tomorrow. Sorry, I got my videos mixed up. I'm doing multiple recordings in a day. We talk about tomorrow where I think one of the, we talk about the best decks and what are the best decks going into Nats that aren't the top 3. Bravo's in that list for me. So I think he's trying to counter some of the top decks. Seeing so many Uziri was really interesting. I do think Uziri is really good as long as you can match up with the Lexis and stay with the Lexis, and then maybe play into some of the aggro decks like Katsu and Phi. But if you get matched up in a Dromai or even Icelander, it's a big feels bad. So Levi being pretty high, there are some Levi players in that area, or not in that area. This is Atlanta, so I'm not sure. That's actually surprising there's that many Levi. But overall, the spread's pretty even. The craziest thing to me is people truly are scared of Warmonger's diplomacy. I keep telling people I think Azalea is a good pick right now. Not like a meta pick, you should definitely take her. But I would expect Azalea to be in this area. The fact that only one person took Azalea, more people took Bolton and Vincent than Azalea. People were that scared of Warmonger's diplomacy, and I do think Warmonger's diplomacy completely hurts Azalea very, very strongly, but not to the point where it's unplayable. I think not every deck runs it. Most decks only run 1 or 2 in the sideboard, 2 or so in the sideboard. I don't think it's that much to where you're just off the deck completely. So I'm very surprised that people did that. If you had told me there'd be more Prisms, Boltons, and Vincents than Azaleas in this event, I would have told you you're wrong. I think that Azalea is being massively undervalued, and I think people are going to slowly maybe get off Warmonger's diplomacy a little bit, in my opinion. And I think Azalea is definitely something that people should be taking more of a look at. Also seeing more Katsus and dashes than Briar is really funny. I wonder if there's some conspiracy on people not wanting Briar to LL. No, I'm just kidding. But overall, small sample size, pretty standard for the most part, just a couple okay surprises. And then we had the top 8. So the top 8 was, as you can see, 4 Lexis, 2 Icelanders, a Phi, and a Briar. So, we had a 4 hero spread for top 8. some notable names in here. Michael Fang, as always, doing really well on Lexi. Matthew McInnes, a local to our area in Dallas, I believe. I think he lives in Dallas, who's been on Lexi for a while. You have Daniel Rutkowski. Hopefully I'm saying that correctly. Rutkowski. He's known as as Phi and played a couple other notable heroes and Ninja, but switched to Icelander. And then you have like the prodigy Lucas Oswald, the young gun in the group. So some really, and obviously all of these are really good players, but some really notable names in the top 8. Not really surprising. I expected maybe a Jeremiah to sneak in here. The Phi at 2nd seed was really interesting. It was a Kadachi Phi, by the way. They call him on stream. Really, really talented player. Really some cool stuff. Using cards like Breaking Point to help combat Lexi and really just race. And typically right now, Phi actually has not a good matchup in the Lexi. So to see Phi get that far was really, really cool. And then we had the top 8. Obviously how it matched up. We had Alexi and Icelander play each other, where Lucas lost to Andrew. And then Matthew McInnes beat Michael Fane in the mirror. So we had Alexi mirror on one side, so guaranteed to have Alexi in the final. And then you had Phi versus Breyer. So Phi actually dodged Alexi in top 8, which is good. And then Lexi and Icelander. So Lexi beat both of the Icelander matchups to make top 4. So top 4 was 3 Lexi and a Phi. And then we had Lexi get to the final, Lexi mirror in the final, and Lexi wins again. So Bullseye Bracers, did it really do that much? That remains to be seen. I think we still need a couple more events to really kind of take that into account. I don't think Bullseye Bracers did too much. I will say this. I don't think Lexi needs a ban. I'm okay with Lexi having her time to shine. We've had other heroes way more egregious than Lexi get way longer to shine, like Starvo and Chain, like heroes that were way worse than Lexi, and they got way longer to shine without multiple bans or Rada or whatever or what have you. So I don't think Lexi needs another ban. If you made me give a ban, right? I don't have a choice. I have to ban something. What am I banning with Lexi? It's Voltaire. I said this on Twitter. Voltaire has always been the problem. It's always been the card. Like, there are powerful cards like 3 of a Kind and Codex of Frailty, and Bullseye Bracers even is a kind of a techie thing, but it's always been Voltaire. Voltaire is an extremely flexible and hyper-aggressive weapon that's extremely powerful, giving 2 cards go again and even giving them a potential buff. And then it's synergy with cards like Bolt and Shot and Heat Seeker and all these other crazy stuff. It creates insane patterns. They would either have to ban it or, which the option I would never do, is errata it to where it only works on elemental arrows. However, I don't think Lexi needs a ban or a change. I just think if you made me pick, it'd be Voltaire. But regardless, Taylor Crawford ended up winning. Gosh, I have to take those down. Ended up winning, and it's pretty simple, right? Lexi dominated the field, she dominated top 8, and she dominated the final. And then we had the PTI event the next day, and this is where you saw some differences. A lot more Levia in the mix. Lexi, Bravo, and Jeremiah still in the top. A little bit more Breyer. Icelander's kind of in the same spot. Like, all representation was mostly the same, with the exception of more Levia. A lot of the Levias maybe from the day prior went and played in this. So that was really cool to see. This event only had 69 players. 7 rounds, really small sample size. Again, the biggest thing for me is 0 Azaleas. I don't think Azalea is in a worse spot than Vincent, right? If you tell me Azalea is in a worse spot than Vincent or Prism, I'm not going to agree with you, especially Bolton. Bolton is abysmal into Lexi, like actually abysmal, and really bad into Icelander. So, like, it's really interesting to see those heroes more represented than Azalea. And I think you're going to see more Azaleas. I don't think she's going to be like a meta pick by any means, but I do think you'll see more when it comes Nat season. That's just my opinion. The top 8 for the PTI, again, 5 Lexis, a Breyer, an Icelander, and Levia made it. Pretty simple here, nothing crazy. Michael Fang made top 8 again. Brody Spurlock, Daniel made top 8 again, so 2 top 8s in the same weekend. Nathan Crawford from the Card Guys also made top 8, trying to get Breyer into, Living Legend, really trying to champion that hero home. And then a couple others. And then as we looked into it, Daniel ended up beating out Levia. I want to watch this over if they did stream it. I don't remember seeing this one, but if they did, I want to watch it because that's a really interesting matchup to me. Joshua ended up beating Nathan Crawford in a really close game. I watched that one for top 8. Yeah, I don't think they streamed this game for top 8, and so it ended up being Daniel and Josh in the top 4. And then this side was all Lexi mirrors, so I'm not going to talk much about this. Will Bradshaw got all the way to the final and won on this side, but literally there was a guaranteed Lexi in the final because of the way the bracket shaped up. Daniel ended up being a Levi and a Lexi on the way to the final, and then finally falling to Will Bradshaw. So Lexi took home the whole weekend. Yeah, I don't know. I don't feel super bad about the fact that Lexi's dominating the way she is. There's ways to combat her. The hard thing I think with Lexi, if I had to boil it down, is she's definitely, you can tech against Lexi and you can play decks into Lexi that are really good into her, like Uziri and Arachne. Even some of like the hyper aggressive Fi and Katsu list can do decently well, right? Jeremiah's kind of a skill matchup. Icelander can win. The issue is a lot of these decks, when they tech for Lexi, they're also kind of crappy against other decks, especially Uziri and Arachne, like Assassin. That's like the easiest tech against Lexi, but then you just auto lose into like other decks. So it's a little bit difficult. I think the problem with Lexi is she's just too good against everybody. She does not have a bad matchup. Like if I go back to my Twitter, which we'll see this video tomorrow, where I talked about like their matchup spreads and stuff like that. Like if you go on Talishar, I mean, if we even do it really quick, or Fabiary where it shows Talishar results, I know it's Talishar. Y'all can get on me later for it. It's totally fine. But if we look at like the heroes, I think it is. Oh, here we go. Sorry, most played decks, meta results. Gosh, it was so hard to find that. But even go back to July. Let's just go back to July and let's look at Lexi's matchup spread. Like if you look at her matchup spread, the only bad matchup she really has in July was Azalea and Arachne, but Arachne is pretty much unplayable in this meta. Azalea doesn't feel good because of Warmongers, right? Every other matchup she's either even or favored into, right? And her entire matchup spread is 60%. It's insanely powerful, right? So I think that's her biggest issue. She just doesn't really have a bad matchup. Her bad matchup is an unplayable deck in the format. So, you know, what can you do? Uziri is bad as well, but then Uziri just loses to Icelander and Jeremiah most of the time, more times than not. So it's really hard. I don't think they need to change anything. I like the fact that Ranger of all classes is getting its time in the sun as being a good class. I think they should keep it the way it is, but we'll have to see how they do in the future. I don't think they'll make any changes before Nats, though. I don't know why you do that. I wouldn't want to shake up the meta that much. Maybe they make a change later after Nats and Worlds, but we'll have to see. Let me know what your thoughts are. I'd like to get your thoughts on the two events. Was it fun to watch? Do you enjoy this type of meta more than like all the chains and stuff? Like that's kind of what I want to know the most is how do you feel about this meta from a viewership experience? From like we all know how people think about strong decks as a player. How do you view it from a viewer perspective? I'd really like to know that. So if you enjoy this type of content, please leave a like, comment, subscribe. If not me, it's totally fine. Go to our Fleshbug creator, leave a like, comment, subscribe on their stuff so we can get more people seeing this game. And I'll see y'all next time on TC Talk. Thank y'all so much.